Anybody else out there, Jim?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, then let's call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is approving the March.
So moved.
Okay, second, any amendments or changes to the minutes? Not hearing any, all those in favor of adoption, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the vote is unanimous. And number two is the formal sewer project. Okay.
Morning, everyone.
Let's do plastic pipe.
Yeah.
Items.
Yeah, brought some show and tell items, want to pass them around. This is the liner as it's installed in the pipe. Same way that you straighten out a pair of socks when you pull them out of the dryer, it goes inside out. So that's inside out right now. This is cured inside out. This is actually what the inside looks like. They just did it backwards, so you can see the texture and material was made out of there. We started Monday. They dug the first hole about 20 minutes. Second hole took about 20 minutes, and they started the process of running a snake through there with a piece of chain on the end to remove material.
That is this?
Correct.
Okay.
You have a cured product in your hand. It's UV cured. They coat it with a resin as it goes into the pipe, just like a
Oh, I
product.
mean,
Yeah, and then overnight, last night, we tie the ends off with literally a knot, just like you would with a sack of potatoes. Filled it with air to keep it pressurized. And
Right,
then
I was gonna say,
they run a UV light all the way down, and it sits there and cures for 12 hours. So this morning when they came in, it's hard as a rock, like, so that has there, and they're going through it right now with the robot. The robot goes through the center of that pipe and then openings for the.
yeah, I was gonna say, how do you cut the,
Yeah, it does it, it does it.
toilets to?
Yeah, he does with a camera. They have a little suitcase camera set up, and he maneuvers it with joystick, and it locates the hole and cuts the hole for you. It takes about 3 minutes to have each hole.
So I appreciate this, that one little snag, and I don't think it's a major snag, but one little snag was they had to remove every toilet on the wing, because there was some good amount of plugging
Yeah,
between.
residue.
Purgatory. There was residue between the bottom of the toilet and where it joins the pipe. So in order that residue not
Yeah.
at some point break loose and clog the new piping, they pulled off every toilet, cleaned the residue out, flushed it down the pipe. And before they did that.
What kind of shape is the drain line from the flange to the pipe?
The flange to the pipe is okay. It's a straight shot. There's nowhere for it to pull. It's
Oh,
straight-
just
yeah,
straight.
it's- yeah, it's a 90-degree turn, and then you've got a pretty steep angle all the way down to the main drain pipe, where has a low slope to it, but it's really where the issue is. When the sand isn't coming through the bottom.
With the outside toilets and showers, were they, is this part of the bid?
Correct.
Well, in other words, the company took care of the outside. Okay, so I did have a constituent question.
Yeah, we also have hand washing stations, for the time that the water was turned off. So the project was started yesterday, water was shut off at 11 a.m. yesterday. Our crew went around and vacuumed all of the toilets, and we plugged them with rags to make sure there was no sewer gas or epoxy coming into the building. Any of the smell from the resin. Cured overnight. We spoke to the crew this morning at 7:30, and they said they're ready to go, so they sent the camera down and just showed me a little bit of what they do.
They actually could have a penetrating X-ray or something that shows them where the other pipes come into it.
They have a map of the pipe itself from its initial inspection. They've initially sent the 1.5-inch camera down the pipe, so they know where to start looking for it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty simple setup over there. It does get a little bit complex once it leaves the building, goes down through laundry, down through the lower area, and then down towards BT and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, they've got a real good handle on it, and we're right on schedule to be back on today. 5 o'clock at the latest.
There's only a 4-inch line feeding that whole building.
Correct. That's it.
For that one wing, and then the holes dug for the other half of the wing. Because this is unit 1, so it's the straight shot.
Yeah.
So now they'll,
But they're only 4-inch lines, the both 4-inch lines coming off, each one must go to that goes to a 4-inch?
4-inch. Yeah, 4 inches maximum. There is one 6-inch section coming off the kitchen, handles all the kitchens. One of the benefits also of this lining is that the interior of the pipe is now smooth, so you're going to see some efficiency there.
When I saw the camera go in after everything was clean before they put the thing in, before it hardens, they have the camera go down and you could see a couple of spots that were actually worn through. In other words, they were actually open, not big spots, but you could see spots where they were actually open. So looks like we caught those just in time.
You're gonna build that today that way.
So is this cast?
Cast iron.
This is cast. Yeah, what we have. Well, now it's blind cast.
Right.
And,
Lucky to get 50 years out of it.
but it was pretty good. I thought, now remember, we're in the older part, right? Right. I mean, this would be about 4 or 5 years older than the front building. So we're hoping for the same kind of luck on the other half of one. And then we're hoping, of course, that because the other ones are 5 years, newer, that it's less likely we'll run into something, but you don't know. You really don't know. But it's fascinating. It's really something to look at the technology.
Yeah, I'm we thrilled with this contractor too. These guys have a lot of experience. The guys are on the floor doing actual work.
They're really good too. I mean, they're really nice to the staff. They're nice to the residents and because right now they're working on the behavior unit. So, that can be a real challenge.
All right, so we got a 6-week window for that, right?
Yeah. That's our best, that's our best estimate right now. And so far, everything's going on track with the 6 weeks.
All right, you guys got any questions?
I mean, it's a $250,000 project, so
I know.
you really, if they were done in 4 days, you'd probably be scratching your head saying, how come it costs $60,000 a day? So, in 6 weeks is what it is.
So are they gonna be out of that building? In other words, they're gonna be out of the building in 6 weeks for the showers and
Everything, right now, if everything runs on time, they'll be done in 6 weeks.
Yeah, the actual time that we have the water shut off and that the drains are not available is about 30 hours. 30 hours total.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Think about it.
The alternative is we find a way to relocate 170 people and then dig a trench, and jackhammer the entire building up.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah. And if you look at this,
You're lucky we have this kind of option.
Yeah.
If we didn't have this kind of option going on, we'd have some issues.
on the floors.
Yeah, jack on the floors.
but it's really, it's really pretty amazing, to see it in action. I haven't spent a lot of time up there, but, the maintenance has been kind enough to show me video, and show me videos and stuff, so.
What's the status of the grinders? And the pump that, you talked about?
The muffin ones?
No, the replacement of the sewage pumps here, I believe you're speaking of. That's going out to bid. That needs to be put up for an RFP.
So you're doing it as a, in-house budget?
Correct, yeah, we're gonna be doing that ourselves.
Okay,
That's tricky. I mean, I've seen them do it before. It's tricky to line up them bolts.
Yeah.
Cause there's almost no, as you dropping that down with the bucket loader, it's gotta be, there's no play. It's gotta line up. You'd probably spend an hour and a half trying to line up those bolt holes, to get it right. Cause I watched the last time we did it. And that is really, that's a tricky move. But it's, I mean, we've done it.
My background was a commissioner as a machinist for AAA pump in Manchester for a number of years. A lot of experience with sewage pumps and electric motors.
So that's a tricky move, but we've done it, at least twice since I've been here, so. We'll get it done.
so what is your estimate, what that's gonna cost?
For the sewage pumps, I believe they
Yeah.
were around The bid that I had gotten from AAA for the appropriately sized units with the cutter option was about 19,000 each, I believe, for the pumps themselves. Yeah,
Then we're
I
gonna have
remember
to,
correctly.
then we have to hire somebody or the city or someone to run the bypass while we drop it in. Cause I mean, you can't just let the.
Yeah.
You can't just let it flow out.
Yeah.
So we hire somebody for a day to run the bypass.
a septic tank truck, basically.
Yeah, I noticed last week, now, is the transfer station, is that right by the ball field?
Correct. The pump station. yeah,
That's,
pump station for the
that's
cities.
Dover's, that's
Dover's.
Dover's problem.
Right, but do we have to come up to that point?
No,
Where is the end of, the quarter mile that I do?
ours is at the street. That's what was explained to me by the city.
Right.
As soon as it gets to the street,
Okay,
that's the end of our responsibility.
I think last week's meeting, I think I seen the city out there, they were there for quite a while.
Yeah, we had an extended power outage last week due to the wind, so we had a
Oh,
power
okay.
outage of about 8 to 10 hours. They were starting to see debris in their tank down there and came up immediately and asked us if our muffin monster was running, our grinder. You know, we hadn't opened the bypass or anything, so it may have just been overflow from someone else. It also takes from the horse farm and about halfway up Henry Farm crossroads.
Doesn't it take the leachate out of the landfill too?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes the leachate out of the.
Tolan Road landfill.
A number of years ago, the county negotiated a deal when we went to natural gas. The natural gas came in the backside by Brock's. Ricky, is that right? Came by Brock's and the way to get it here was dig under the Cachico. Or get Dover to allow us to attach it to their walking bridge. We did a quid pro quo and let them run the leachate line across the back of Hyder and tie it into the sewer line. You remember this, Jenny? Tie it into the sewer line so that it doesn't come on it crosses our property, but it ties to the sewer line on the road and then runs down, takes left and goes into the sewer line. And that goes to the pump station. Now, the reason the pump station is there is because, of course, it drops, the ability for it to flow naturally is over at the pump station. So it has to pump its way through and out until it goes down by the dip and down, and then it runs out back by Liberty Mutual. So we cut a deal with Dover just only to allow them to run the line across the back of Hyder, which is all grown in now. And we got to attach our gas line to their walking bridge. So it was kind of didn't hurt anybody and it helped us tremendously because to dig down under the river to run that gas line through it cost us a fortune. So that's a little history there.
Any questions on the sewer project?
Just, I don't know, I just think, the cooperation level, I always say this, Riverside's at its best when things are at its worst. And this is a challenge, because remember, we got no water, so, I mean, people think, oh, well, no big deal, we use bottled water. It's not that simple with demented residents.
Right.
They're using commodes now instead of toilets. We got commodes set over the toilets. You have to get bag liners with it. It's just an unbelievable amount of work.
Yeah, it took a lot of thinking from a lot of different departments. I actually don't know how to solve nursing problems, so really everybody came together.
But when I called for a report last night at 11, now, so remember the water had been off since 11.
12 hours.
So it'd been off 12 hours and everybody was cooperative. And that's gonna be the hardest unit, of course, because it's our behavior unit. And now I'm not sure the timing, we're waiting for them to give us the timing on the other side.
We anticipate cleaning out the end room and moving the residents back into it this afternoon, starting this afternoon, and probably have the residents back in by tomorrow afternoon.
So all we have to relocate is two residents on each end. And we use the,
Where they transporting the residents would have to use the johns and stuff up either outside or,
well, there's only two, four.
well, you can't use the toilets on the wing that they operate.
Right, but you can use them on the other wing,
Yeah.
okay,
And there's commodes placed over the toilets.
but in order not to displace them in the other room, we put commodes. But right now, there will only be two residents displaced. And by the beginning of the week, they should be returned. And then, it's my understanding, from as of yesterday, and that might change, that now they're coming downstairs.
That's the schedule.
Their schedule is they're coming down the 8th floor, so no residents will be displaced then. It's just gonna be,
Yeah, this is the only portion of the project where we have to displace residents.
there's nothing displaced on 4 or 5.
No, all the work's gonna be done in the ground, which is A4. There'll be no work on the second or third level.
And how about 2?
2 is being done at the same time as 1, 2 feeds into 1. So this is the end of it.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah, they share the same drain.
it's confusing for
It is,
people that,
it is,
That
yeah,
don't-
mind numbing, yeah,
yeah, okay, good, so this is the only time residents will be displayed.
correct.
That's what I care about the most. And hopefully by Tuesday, the last 2 residents will be returned to their room. But they wanted to dig, understandably so, both ends at the same time. And so we had to displace 4 residents. But they got a pretty cool little spot.
Yeah.
And now it'll be down to 2, so they got more room in the area they're in than they have in their own rooms.
Yeah, it's common area.
It's common area that we've used, so. But it'll be nice just to have no impact on the residents. That'll be the nice part.
Well, it keeps the complaints down. Right?
Well, I think the families have been really good. The social workers have reached out to the families. A number of the people on the behavior unit have Office of Public Guardian. And that's always a little bit easier to deal with because they understand that these things happen. So, I know at least 2 of the 4 have Office of Public Guardian. I'm not sure of the other 2.
All right. So, any more on that, sewer? No, you guys are good? All right, let's talk to Jimmy about the roof unit projects. Jimmy, you gonna be doing that?
Okay, roof units, where we stand now, there's 15 units up and running. All of the Johnson controls are all tied in that control these units. What has to happen now is the fine tuning, and what happens with this, these units are not your everyday HVAC units where you can take one off, put one on, balance. What we're looking for is a 6 air exchange per hour, okay? So in order to do that, you have to have 20% air coming in. You have to turn up the CFMs of the unit,
Yeah.
which now create noise in the areas. Whereas some areas were so noisy that you couldn't talk on the phone, okay? So, and then what happens is, like in the wintertime, you're sucking in 20% air. So the return air is coming in at 54 degrees. People are freezing. Now, same thing would happen in the summer. You would be sucking in 80 degrees. And it would be heat coming in, you wouldn't be able to cool the area. So what happens now is the balancer comes in, the guy that does the balancing, he takes all the readings go to the engineers, they do the numbers, and then they figure out what they have to do with the units in order to get the 6 air exchanges plus the 20% air, which you have to have to make the 6 air exchanges. Yeah, so that's where we're up against now. We had our meeting yesterday on it, and they are looking at finishing the job probably 2 months as far as, because each unit has certain areas that need to be balanced. So they gotta do, all individual. And when you have one unit that's feeding, say, 3 rooms, you gotta make sure that all rooms have the 6 air exchange. And that you gotta take into consideration how many people are gonna be in that room.
So I think the engineers figured this all out in the beginning. They were supposed to figure that all out. You know, in terms of,
I think what happens in the end, it all turns into the fine tuning balance and you know, that you can't do that in the beginning. Most places you go to when they change their unit, they're not looking for an air exchange
right,
per hour, you know? Where that's what we have to do because that's what we went out.
yeah,
Well, that's a, you know, if you remember, that was the requirement from the state
state,
COVID, and as long as we were replacing the units anyway,
right,
because they were between 15 and 20 years old.
Right.
You know, we used ARPA funds, to
Yeah.
replace the units.
Correct.
yeah,
And we said, if they want 6 air exchanges, now's the time to do it.
Right.
So
And-
that's the way we bid it.
you have a hurricane going on in these hallways.
And the way that all took place was, it started in Concord where the people that worked in the courthouse there,
Oh, yeah.
when COVID would hit, they were all looking for, cleaner air, this and that. So then they had somebody come into their courthouse and did a lot of readings, and they had to make a lot of changes there. Well, at that time, we had the old units up there. We could bring in 6 air exchanges an hour, but we couldn't get no heat.
Right.
They wouldn't keep up.
Couldn't keep up.
Yeah, so that's why all this had to take place. So that's where we stand now.
It's a little, you know, suffice it to say, it's been a little frustrating,
Yes, a lot.
you know, with the length of time that it's taken to do that, so. Raymond's decided to stop paying bills until we get a more definitive answer on how to make this work.
Yeah.
I don't think Jim has the, you know, it just seems like it's taken a long time.
It is. But then again, you've got to look at what happened during all this too. We were not able to work.
Yep. I know one day a week.
We had to come in, we would work from 5 in the morning till 8, you had to be quiet. How can you be quiet when you're working with steel? Okay, and we have them out back mowing the lawn, and the courts will call and say they gotta go somewhere else because it's on our recordings. So and by doing that, they had to work weekends.
Yep.
So when the job came out, it was supposed to be like a 6-8 month job,
Right.
but because of all that, here
The
we are.
steel, then we had to buy the steel.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Jimmy to give me the okay to authorize, you know, the next payment.
Yeah.
I just want to know that we're, you know, making progress and that we're moving in the right direction.
Are you getting pulled back from the contract?
Not yet. Well, just one little blowback, but that's not our fault. The engineer hired another engineer.
Right.
And there's just a screw up in the billing. So Jimmy's taking care of that at yesterday's meeting.
Yeah.
So once that's square, I don't mind bringing him up to date.
Yeah.
But it's only like $4,000.
Oh,
You know,
That was
and it was like, right, $4,000, right?
4,600, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for that bill to come the right way, and then I'll authorize it.
who's the contractor on the roof?
Turnstone.
Turnstone is the contractor doing the roof, and the,
Turnstone, and then the engineers are McHenry and is out of, Portsmouth, and Design Day out of South Berwick.
Design Day is the one that McHenry brought on board.
Correct. Yeah, she's doing all the figuring for the roof units now. And then you have all the different contractors that are involved in all this, because you got Johnson's Controls that's gotta get involved, and then you gotta get, Palmer and Saccard involved, because they're the ones that have to bring the laptop to the unit and set everything up.
Yeah.
To the controls, it's quite an operation.
Who's the contractor for the software?
Who's that?
For the software, Jimmy.
Johnson Controls.
Johnson Control.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's who we,
Yeah,
that's actually who does the rest of this building.
They've had a building
Is
forever.
that- is
Yeah, I
that
think they do
proprietary?
pretty much everything on the complex.
That's bad.
Well, it is, but you know, those decisions were made long before us. You know,
Been there, done that.
yeah, I mean, and so we're kind of like stuck with that decision because otherwise you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to change over all the controls on the whole complex. So we're kind of stuck.
Is it cost, do you think it's costing us more because it's proprietary?
But I don't think so because that's actually Turnstone's problem. They're the ones paying Johnson Control.
Okay.
I mean, we will subsequently, you know, have some kind of an arrangement with them in the future. But right now, it's on Turnstone, not on us.
I think a project of this complexity, I don't think you can find a turnkey off-the-shelf solution, you need a custom.
Well, it's tough.
proprietary.
When I was on the school board, we had the same problem. You know, everything's proprietary and.
Yeah.
You know, they got you. I mean, you have no choice.
Right.
Any questions about? Okay. List of, we gotta move on to discuss this offer for an energy audit.
Yeah, my the gentleman from Eversource, who Jimmy and I have dealt with for years and years and years, and I think he's taken a liking that, you know, about 5 years ago or so, they redid all the lighting. And what we did was did a contribution. They basically kept our electric bill the same. And that paid for the 3 years. And now, I don't know if you guys would remember, but it was asked at the delegation meeting why it went down. Well, we're not paying that, you know, that those 3 years are up.
Yeah, actually, all the savings paid to do the job.
That's right. So they've offered to come in and redo an energy audit. It's free. And then, I'll meet with them. You know, Dougie was tied up. Well, because Dougie was invited, Jimmy they were all tied up, so it was just me. So, and I know about electricity, it's like when you walk in and you flip the switch, the lights come on. That's my extent of knowledge of electricity and usage. So, what's gonna happen is they're gonna come back with a proposal that I'll share with you guys, you know, about what they're looking to do. I talked them into doing all 4 buildings. So it would be the jail, the nursing home, the courthouse, and Eider. And for looking for any energy efficiencies. And simultaneous with that, where it's not gonna cost us anything, you know, I just just say, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then they will come back with a proposal, which they'll share with us. We'll ask them questions, and then the final proposal will be done in front of you gentlemen. I just want to scrub it down first, you know, with you guys, and then we'll do it in front of you gentlemen for the final proposal. They're all happy with that. They don't usually get to the commissioner level, but that's the way, you know, we have a little inside baseball here. You know, so we will, you know, there'll be a judgment and, you know, if there is costs, you know, there'll be a payback period and all those kinds. I'll do all that math, all that stuff. You guys just need to, you know, tell me that you think it's reasonable. So that's gonna be a little ways down the road.
That's down the road,
Yeah, that's down the road.
Now, how is the load charts that you promised me? Where were we at on that?
I turned those in a while ago. I'm sure.
We emailed them to you.
Probably more than a month ago.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So,
Yeah, there you go.
so they're in the works?
No, you got it.
No, you got it.
I do? I haven't seen them.
Well, when you go upstairs, Janet will print them out for you,
Okay.
because we emailed them to you a while ago,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
about a month ago. So but Janet will print it out for you, so you'll have it.
Well, sometimes I don't always get my email. for some reason.
I understand, sir. It happens to all of us at one time or another, but we'll print it out for you, so you'll have it.
Cause I, you know, actually, you know, if we do a solar farm, the backup that we'd have to have a
Of
backup.
course,
And this jet powered plant, two backup units, which could be primary. Depending on how much it costs, because it's powered by natural gas, so. That's something that we might, because that, with solar power, obviously you need at least a backup. If not a primary, of course, you'd have a primary and the backup of the jet engines. So,
We had, part of the problem that we've talked about is when the power went out, even though we classify ourselves as an emergency, because of the jail and the nursing home, even though we have generator power in both those places. The courthouse has no, all it has is generator power for emergency lights. So what happened is the courthouse ended up closing.
Yeah.
We waited for about 2 or 3 hours and public service couldn't even tell us where the power was out. So I hung notes on the door. I was at Riverside, so I hung notes on the door that says, if you need anything from, the county, call me, because I stay here till close of business. And of course, I can work over there because I have full generator power, and I didn't get any calls. I think I let everybody go about 2:30. The court, deeds left at like at noontime. The court left about 1:30. And so I waited hoping it was gonna come back on, but it didn't. So I let everybody go and nobody called, so it didn't appear as if anybody needed anything at that time period. But that's one of the problems, is that we don't have any generator power from this building. We never have.
This is probably like the third or fourth energy audit we've had here since I've been here.
Yeah, well, they keep coming up with, stuff that if we keep coming up with stuff that saves us money, I'm all for it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Especially if it's free.
Yeah, well, can't beat that. So what happens is the engineering company came with Eversource and, we talked about the buildings. And the guy from Eversource is the guy that signs off on this. And so he's waiting for a plan from the company, the consulting company. He'll sign off on it and then they'll make arrangements with you guys to tour the buildings. Cause that's something it'll be up to you guys to take them through. But I said, right now, we're in the middle of a sewer project, so, you gotta give us a little bit of time, so. But it's gonna take them a little while anyway.
So this building, the only, emergency is we have this room, which is if something happens in the county and they're out of power, they can meet here. We have heat and light in here. And the sheriff's department is all on generator power.
Yeah.
That's it.
For
Yeah, and then life
dispatch,
safety, that's it.
And then we have a double backup, and I'm just saying this, I know George knows, but we have a double backup for dispatch that Dover would take over and we would take over for Dover if the generator failed. So in order to get our CLIA certification, it's not adequate to have a single backup. We need a double backup.
Yeah.
So our double backup is, again, a reciprocal agreement with Dover.
All right. Any other questions on the audit? No? Okay, we got a list of a couple of upcoming events. Do you have any old and new business we need to talk about?
I have a few things, Mr. Chairman, that I just, some need to be in non-public, but, some will, roof units. I spoke, I mentioned it to you last week about House Bill 547. And I know I talked to you, George, about it. Just a little background. When Biden was the president, he declared, the COVID emergency.
Yeah.
When he did, he changed the percentage that the federal government pays for Medicaid from 50% to 56 point something. So where the county pays 95% of the non-federal share, our cost should have gone down. Well, the state kept it for the first year and a half. DHHS wouldn't give it to us. So we had to file legislation to force them to recognize the extra money. So for a year and a half, this is how long it takes legislation to go through. They kept that money, which is about $22 million collectively for the 10 counties. Our share, we pay about 8.85% of the total non-federal share. So we'd be entitled to about $1.9 million. Now, the state took that money and put it into surplus, fund balance, on the state. So,
It's new to Lagoon.
well,
That's all it was.
I'm not getting into
It's just the fact.
that part
It's
of
the
it.
facts.
So
We know people don't hear a lot of facts around.
we calculated that out. And actually, I wish I could claim credit for it, but it was calculated out by Chuck Nickerson at Rockingham County, and he split it out for each county. He compared it to the numbers that eventually came from DHHS. They bagged us for 6 months. Their numbers were a little bit higher than ours, so that's good. At least we're not fighting about numbers. And it went through the first committee 18-0 in favor of the bill. The chairman of finance attended the hearing on the 18-0 and has offered a compromise of stretching it out over 4 years instead of 2 years. Because we were filed the initial thing at a 2-year payback. Again, it's about $1.9 million for us, so we're waiting to see what happens with that. It's got a ways to go because it's got to go to House Finance, then it's got to go to the Senate. Then it's going to get all mixed up at the end, so we won't know any of this till the end of June.
So if it gives you 4 years, I would take it.
Sir, I agree with you 100%. I had just got off the phone, this morning. I wanted to get the latest updated information, from the hearing. So I called the Association of Counties and, I put our 2 cents in about agreeing to 4 years. So, but I called her this morning because I wanted to be sure I was giving you the most recent information. That's the most recent offer that was given to us. So,
That's all subject to appropriation.
Yeah, well, we're the $200 million short at this point, because you won't really know until probably the end of May what your receipts are, and the Senate has the best advantage.
yeah.
So,
It's not the first time, but people don't understand that this is not the first time this has happened to county government. County government's always been subsidized in the program. The state, the state has done this repeatedly to the counties for a very, very long time.
We
have no way that
because they can.
Because they can, and they have no broad-based taxes to support the program that we have. So they rely on the property tax, and in this particular case, they rely on the counties. I mean, soon learned good from his father. His father did the same thing to us 40 years ago.
We did fight during that year and a half period of time, but when we realized that DHHS was not going to give up, even though it's obvious.
Right.
We needed to get legislation done, and it passed. And so for the balance of the time that Biden continued COVID, we did get that benefit. But then, of course, when it ended, it went back to 50%. But I'm just looking for, again, it's about $1.9 million. Even if we get $500,000 a year, I'm a happy guy. I did not budget for it. On the other hand, I have no idea if it's gonna pass. It's too much in its infancy.
Well, once it passes, though, that's gonna go in property tax relief.
That'll be up to you guys.
Just that.
Yeah, I mean, we would get it. The question is what do you do? I mean.
That'll be a discussion. That's a discussion if you get it.
Right, no, I'm throwing that out there, something.
I understand.
All those things always tend to give you a property tax relief, but whenever the county gives any property tax relief, the town spend it.
Well,
So there you go.
We will,
that's why they had elections yesterday.
Yeah.
we will, so I'll keep you gentlemen informed as that progresses through. Right now, obviously, it's just past committee, so it's really at its infancy.
There is a bill that just passed to the House, is going to the, it's a Senate, that is required, is allowing, accessory use dwellings or mother-in-law and father-in-law apartments, as a right. The legislature passed it a few years back.
We're doing it too.
Yeah, right, and that's a good, actually, that's a good thing, because it expands the property tax base, and it also helps people pay their taxes.
We also have, what,
Avoid homeless.
it's also an interesting thing, because I have some personal experience. A relative lives in Barrington, is in the process of considering selling her home that has an in-law apartment. So, I'm anxious to see what how the real estate agent factors that in when they're doing the pricing of the house. Unfortunately, no, it's not unfortunately, that's a lousy way to say it. Assisting.
Good, because we need more housing. Need more housing, and it needs to be more affordable. The only way you're gonna do that is to have more units,
Well, I mean, it's a perfect little unit.
you know,
Yeah.
and it'll help people pay their property taxes.
I wanted to tell you the county salaries are on the website. You know that it started with Durham, who always is the first one. Since then, Dover, Somersworth, and Rochester have put their salaries on the website. No, have given their salaries to Foster's. Foster's hasn't asked us, but we put ours on the website. So we went on the website, when, Janet?
Tuesday.
Okay, so went on the website within the last couple of days. We don't have a computer system that allows us to push a button and just spew it on, like, because I've been here almost 40 years and we're still using the same software. So, you know, it's not as convenient as it might be, obviously it must be really convenient in Durham, because, you know, they have theirs out like in January. So we have to manually do ours. So what you'll see is, set a combination of the person's name and their salary and overtime will be listed next to their name. And so I just want to let you know it's on the website.
Speaking of the website, I did notice that you put the donations of food.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That was done very professionally, and I appreciate that.
And the other thing we've done on the website is we are adding an update on the sewer project on the website. Correct, Janet? That
I know certain parts have gone out, but not the latest.
no, well, we're not updating it every day. We're gonna update it episodically. Okay, yeah, sewer updates, Riverside Rest Home, so it's on the website. So what we're doing is, Activities did a really cool job of, you know, writing it out. Now, we've notified the families, but this way, if they want to see an update on the project, like I'll get them to update it either today or tomorrow, you know, that we've finished the first wing and the whole bit. So it's really Activity's done a really nice job with it. That way, we discussed it and discussed it and discussed it and discussed it over the last 6 or 8 months. So I thought it might be nice to have anybody who was interested could just go on the website and get an update on it. So we'll update it today, consistent with what the report I gave you all this morning.
And that same information is available to every resident on their televisions.
Yeah, oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Channel 65 is our internal Riverside channel. So if the residents want to go to channel 65, they can get the update also. I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure how many residents, you know, understand or appreciate what's going on, but where it's on the website, their families can get an up-to-date, you know, thing. So I thought that was pretty clever of activities to pull that together. Chris, I'm working off a list. Chris, do you want to talk about the, court case?
Sure. Tuesday, I participated in I attended a court hearing for the Giotto case. Giotto case is the ACLU case that was brought against the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Corrections for housing ICE detainees when COVID broke out. On the 5-day anniversary of the declaration of the pandemic. 5 year. The case was settled. An oral declaration was made with an order to be typed up and sent out at a later time, but the case was settled. There was no financial impact that came as a result of attorney's fees from Strafford County. We have to continue to report to the U.S. Attorney's Office for a period of 8 months. And that's just to make sure that we continue to do what we're supposed to do, what we kind of agreed to do in the settlement negotiation. The court, the court, the plaintiffs and the respondents were all very complimentary to Strafford County and the way in which we handle not just the COVID case, but the ACLU spoke about how easy it is to come in and work with some of their clients. And it was articulated that it was kind of the gold standard in the area for how to operate a correctional facility. So it was very nice to hear. And that's the facility that you guys give me an opportunity to run. So thank you very much.
That's good news.
So I wanted,
Hanging around for a while.
I wanted to just take another moment to update you on the bail, another bail bill that's going through the legislature. So the legislature spent 2 sessions creating a bail bill that empowered the magistrates to, so that people wouldn't have to stay in jail over the weekend because the courts don't work on the weekend. So if you're arrested on a Friday afternoon, you wouldn't have to wait until Monday to have somebody hear your bail argument. In any case, now the legislature wants to so that's been in place for 2 years. That's not even true.
Yeah.
The magistrates have been in place since January, and now they want to repeal it. So I did verify this morning when I talked to the Association of Counties that there's nothing in this bail bill that will stop us from doing community corrections. And the sheriff could educate me if I'm wrong.
Yes, there is nothing. It goes back to closer to the way things were in 2018. So it's no more magistrates, but much more similar to how things used to be.
Do you have any reason why what's the argument for getting rid of the magistrates? Simply because they don't want to pay for them?
No, I think that from what I can see, they tried it from January to now. That's all they've tried it.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been much that's helped. It's created more issues than not. What the governor said yesterday was that their role was so unclear between what a judge can do and what a bail commissioner can do, that those hearings were starting to be adversarial. They wanted attorneys appointed at that. And so there were so many issues that were coming up with that middle person that I think they might have the magistrates do something else, but it seems to not be working briefly in that window. So this will give the opportunity for people to be held more often back to the way things were before they tried to not hold people at all. This came about because of that 2018. They just said that across the country, they were saying that disproportionately poor people were being held more often. So this is trying to, it's acknowledging that and fixing that a little bit, but going back to being able to hold dangerous people.
It won't stop community corrections. We're still gonna be assessing, I always call our community corrections a financial equalizer. Because we don't care how much money you have, it's about what you know, your background, to make a recommendation to the court. That's really important because we have no liability on having somebody out on community corrections because it's not our order, it's the court order. And the court operates off absolute immunity. So we have, from everything I've heard and what the sheriff's just confirmed and what I heard this morning, it won't stop the way in which we do business. Those ladies and gentlemen that are accused of these types of serious crimes, that they would never be eligible for our community corrections program anyway.
Right.
I mean, they're accused of too serious a crime for us to risk taking them out. So I just wanted to mention that. There, can I go on to another? Just keep rattling on. There is in the governor's budget, there was a large increase for nursing home care. And here I was so naive to think that it might be distributed to all the nursing homes. Well, according to what Henry Lippman told, he's the head of Medicaid, said that it's money that the state owes, back money that the state owes, a lot to do with a lot of sale and changeover of ownership in nursing homes. And he's estimating that they owe between $20 and $30 million in back payments. So it doesn't look as magnanimous as it first appeared. There is some discussion about raising our cap 2%. And of course, I didn't budget for that because we were all told that there was going to be no raise in the cap. But so if it does go up 2%, because we're talking about 2% of $11 million, we're going to need a budget adjustment because I don't have 2% of $11 million just hanging around. So, but you know, again, that like House Bill 547 is a long ways off.
Right.
I mean, I've never seen a budget, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a budget that's been produced by the legislature that exactly mirrors the governor's budget. Never. So just because it's in the governor's budget doesn't mean it's gonna end up in the final budget. So I'm just simply alerting you to the current status of things. Just so you'll know, I do try and go on the legislative calls from the Association of Counties, but they've been on Fridays and I've had nothing but budget hearings or executive committee meetings and so I have missed the last few. So I called to get an update on things that are of issue. The only other thing that I wanted to mention regarding pending legislation, Senator Carson submitted, so it's an SB, yeah, something, I can't remember the name, that authorized the Secretary of State to take a closer look at the finances of the pools that service the governmental entities. And I'm talking about health insurance pools, workers' comp pools, property and liability pools. So our only fish in the water is Primex. Now Primex is 100% stable.
Yeah.
They have I'm just doing the math in my head, $126 million in reserves. So they're not really the issue, but Health Trust, and if you remember, we used to have our health insurance through Health Trust. Health Trust is losing $2.5 to $3 million a month. And I guess because of there's an argument. Health Trust I listened to the hearing. Health Trust will tell you they're losing that money because they didn't properly calculate what was gonna happen after COVID. you know, that everybody's gonna start going back to
Back
the
to the
doctors
doctors.
again.
Yeah.
Although the actuarialist that was hired by the state of New Hampshire says that Health Trust ignored their own actuarialist in an effort to attract clients with lesser rates.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one's the truth. Frankly, I don't care. Whatever is the result of that bill, Health Trust is screaming. But whatever it doesn't, the way I calculate
Someone's
it,
gonna pay it.
well, the way I calculate it, and it's just simple calculation. If they're losing if they're a $150 million entity and they're losing, say, 20%, let's be generous. Say they're losing 20% a year. So if you are a client, before you even start your next renewal, you're gonna be looking at a 20% increase, plus the increase to repair their fund balance,
Yeah.
plus trend. And, you know, trend, as you know, from listening to our proposals, you could be easily looking at a 30% increase if
Right.
your entity is Health Trust. Fortunately for us, we deal directly with Anthem, so none of that applies to us for our healthcare. It's just
There's a lot of municipalities that are in health trust, though.
a ton,
A ton.
$150 million worth.
Right.
According to what I was told, they have a $150 million client base. So I sure wouldn't want to be one of them. And there's another company, that we've not done business with, but we've got proposals from, that's much smaller, that's in almost as bad a situation as Health Trust. But I did verify, from somebody that we know on the board of Health Trust, that they are losing between 2.5 and $3 million a month.
Is Kathy Stacy still in there?
I don't know, but Jill is.
Jill is?
Yeah, that's who I spoke to, was Jill, and she verified that that's an accurate statement about their loss. The other thing that this bill seeks to do is put a cap on on an admin percentage. The actuarialist from, the state came up with, nationwide numbers for percentages of administrative cost for these types of pools. So, there was some question about, they didn't go into it in any kind of depth, but there is some question of, this would authorize the Secretary of State to have more authority in looking at the percentage of, admin expenses, you know, that are part of the pools. So I guess that's a whole lot to say, but you guys that's all I have, but I guess that's quite a bit.
All right, we'll move business, John.
I just had a constituent that asked me, if your wood business, when you got the trucks of, wood, that was put out to bid.
No. I mean, are you talking about the county's wood business?
Yeah.
No, but I know what I pay for wood, you know, my own personal wood business, I pay $1,200. County pays $850. So I had been, we've been happy with that vendor for a whole bunch of years. The county's bought wood from them for years and years and years. But, I mean, if that's something, I don't know, it's been 20 years. If that's something that the county wants to go out to bid for, we'll do it.
Yeah, initially they donated the wood
Yeah.
Well, originally,
because they had to add.
we still get enough amount, quite a bit of wood donated. Okay, so we'll have somebody that knows that we process the wood. They'll call us and say, hey, I'm having X number of trees cut down. We obviously don't take any pine. X number of trees cut down. Do you want it? And we'll send a crew over to pick it up, and we'll obviously resell that, because it's free. And what we have is labor, you know, because we have the people that work in the program. So.
And who's the company that, supplies the wood?
Doucette.
Is that out of Ospey?
You know, I'm not honestly sure where he's, South Berwick.
Oh, so, oh, Mainwood, oh my God.
It's legal, you know, because it's the adjacent
Yeah, you're
county.
within 10 miles.
And he
clears everywhere. He clears New Hampshire. Yeah.
No, but that's one of the, can't bring wood in from Maine.
Right, within 10 miles of the
10
border.
miles.
Is that the
Yeah,
radius? That's
10
good,
miles.
because I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's 10 miles of the border.
Actually, I buy my personal wood in Norfolk.
There we go. Should look at the county, it'd be a lot cheaper.
Actually Lebanon. Yeah, well, it's, hey, always looking. Always looking to save a dime.
$250 a cord for the county.
Everybody or such as full.
We do give a little bit of a break to like community action. Community action in their, let's call it their weatherization program, but it's also a fuel assistance program. A number of people use, you know, have wood stoves. So we'll cut it down a little bit for community action. We actually have a contract with community action you know, cut it back to 200 or 225. Because when you calculate out what Doucette sells it to the county for and the quantity of wood, it's around $75 a cord, you know, raw cord, log length.
Yep.
So, but we do have costs to offset in the sense that, well, not really, because they use my stuff.
Right.
The county uses my splitter, my conveyor. They use the county dump truck, but sometimes they use mine. And if they have a big load to deliver, especially if it's a distance away, they'll use my big trailer.
Yeah.
And they'll use my truck because their truck can't pull my big trailer.
Yeah.
So, but I donate that. I don't, you know, that's my donation to the county. I don't take any money for that. So, that's, you know, part of it is we sell it mostly, probably 90% of the wood we sell goes to county employees who really don't make any money.
Is there a military discount?
We'll give you one, Joe.
We'll give you one.
Oh, wow.
We'll give you one.
But it can't be a gift.
No, it's not a gift.
Not a gift, it's gonna get a discount.
No, it's a,
We
but
have
it's,
a lot of customers that are blind, a lot of customers that can't cut their own wood.
Right.
the other thing that we'll do on a rare occasion, if we get somebody that's blind, as Dougie said, or is very disabled, but this is the only way they can make a living, is I'll send the crew over to stack it for them. So, you know, because they can't, I mean, I just feel so bad. You know, I feel so bad for these
It's all I
people.
can afford to do right here.
You know, this is, all these people, I feel so bad for them. I'll send, you know, the good boy and our Matthew over with the crew to stack it for them. And they can stack it, you know, 2 or 3 guys can stack it in a cord in less than an hour.
Hey, Glenn Bailey does a good job of stacking.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
There-
he's stacks for me.
There is a talent.
Good guy.
There's
Good guy.
there is a talent to properly stacking your wood so that it dries for the
Well,
fall.
I got those big baskets, you know, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
fluid comes in.
Yep.
You know what, 300-gallon baskets, I guess they are.
But that's, yeah, I don't buy wood from him. I buy it from Kay. It's about loyalty. It's loyalty. You know I pay a lot more. I know that, but I don't make any money from I declare it on my taxes. But I buy it from Kay because a number of years ago, there was no wood to be found. And Kay made sure that the county and I got wood, and it's about loyalty. So I pay $1,300 for an extra cord, and an extra 2 cord. So, but I don't mind doing it. I don't sell wood to make money. I don't make money. But it's, you know, that's just simply the way it goes. So that's why you'll find, and I offered to take you out back to take a look. You'll find the county has about 150 cord back there. Because when we're buying it at $850 a quart, you know, and you can't pass it up, you know, it's unheard of.
Not to change the subject, but, I noticed that, the place that you was looking at in Farmington, the assisted living.
Yeah,
I noticed some people were living in there. So that's
really.
yeah, that's probably the other question. I don't know if they're there temporary or what the deal is, but, so
I
how,
went and looked at the church and the church doesn't have a for sale sign in front of it.
oh, really?
Which is, no,
But the church was built,
on the 108. There was lights on in there, but there was no for sale sign, and there's no, the listing was taken down, so I don't know. I looked.
Oh, what's the, status? Are we still looking at behind the jail, like the old animal shelter, that site?
It's just
Well,
got-
if Dover said they'd sell a building, give you the funds, right?
they said,
So a steel building.
Yeah.
Cheap,
Right.
you can do a slab and,
You could,
you know, say an 8-foot ceiling,
You
you know,
could.
an 8-foot eave,
right.
you know, you probably.
I think the biggest issue with using that site is that for those of us that would like to see the streets cleaned up in the cities, okay? Chances of us cleaning them up are about a 50-50 shot, because they won't come here.
Well, they won't come here because you got the jail right
Jail,
here.
jail, and sheriff's department, and we're heavily invested in the criminal justice system. That's what this function, that's what we do here.
and a lot of them are wanted.
And a lot of them will want it, you know, a lot of them have other issues, so although we wouldn't have the NIMBY problem, you know, not in my backyard, we wouldn't have that problem.
Or maybe even the inmates would get upset, you know?
But yeah, I mean, it's just that you're not,
So you're building this nice building?
Yeah.
For the homeless group.
Right.
And you still have the nursing home people sharing.
Yeah.
4 people
Well,
sharing one bathroom and,
Right.
and having 163 cases of norovirus.
Can't control it.
Because I can't separate, I can't separate people.
Yeah, we experienced that hurdle when the warming center was upstairs in the Alms House for the first year. There was a lot of folks who wouldn't come out here because it was directly across from the
Right.
entrance to the jail.
Right, and that was the biggest discussion I had with the mayors, of telling them that I, for one, just one person, one Strafford County resident, would like to see the streets cleaned up. But to bring them here, you're not gonna clean the streets up, because they're not gonna come here. Half of them will come, the other half are not gonna come. Okay, because they're gonna think they're gonna get arrested, and, you know, just, we have to ask this, you know, a lot of them are using. Some are mentally ill. And so the problem you have is that I can have the sheriff's department look the other way. Okay, as an example, you have the county attorney, you know, office, they're gonna look the other way when they're out here,
Meaning a low barrier shelter.
you know,
That puts you in a real spot.
it puts everybody in a real bind here.
We had that kind of agreement with, when we did run it upstairs, we had that agreement with Sheriff DuBois.
Right.
You know, that he wouldn't send patrols in there to, you know, march the hallways, but it seems to me, and Dougie, you know better than I. It seems to me that there is more active using than there was back then. In other words, we didn't really seem to have active using in the upstairs and the annex at the rate we were having active using, you know, at Wheeland.
Well, that's dropped down some this time.
I'm talking
Because
about,
of the vendor we have.
I understand that.
But, right, I know I know the point you're making. I get you the point you're making.
You know, but I mean, it was easier for Sheriff DuBois to say, we'll stay out of there.
Right.
Because we really didn't have any active using going on. And that's gonna be a difficult position for the sheriff to be in. Because we know there's, not necessarily in Wheeland. Okay, but in the fringe area
Oh, yeah.
around Eland. Now, the fringe areas around the jail, the nursing home, the hospice house,
Daycare.
the daycare, now the fringe area is in a more sensitive area than it is at Wheeling.
Sure.
And Dougie and I have had these conversations many times because
So
we took a
it's
couple
not-
of people kind of on a trial basis.
Lack of public transportation on the weekends, and a bunch of other areas. Yeah.
How much, how much,
That's the only downside of bringing it here. I mean, you're not gonna clean the streets, you're not gonna clean up the streets. Now, I wanna clean up the streets. That's what I wanna do.
so how much interaction does Carrie have, her department and, the people at Woolen?
Well, Carrie's our liaison.
Because we're trying to help those people that are on drugs.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, she's.
And you've got all kinds of people trying to do that too. You got CAP doing it, you got all these resource agencies that are doing it.
The poor gentleman that died,
Yeah.
there last week was from CAP.
Right.
He came to deliver
Food.
Did you know him, Dougie?
John Carver.
Yeah, John Carver, yeah.
I mean, I think I met him once or twice, but I
Yeah.
didn't really know him, and I thought you would.
Good person.
Yeah, I heard he was a wonderful man.
Devastating loss, yeah, he had a heart attack.
Yeah, right in the door of Wheeling, apparently.
He was, under the radar, low profile, just did everything that needed to be done, made beds, carried food, drove people places, just whatever needed to be done. That's a big loss.
Yeah, and I think the entity took it hard.
Well, this is a national problem that's been going on for a long time, and I don't, whatever we do, whatever we do, if it doesn't clean up the streets, it's a half-hearted approach, and it doesn't make sense to me. Okay?
I agree with you.
I mean, initially I thought it would be a good idea to put them out back, but the more I thought about it, and I said, we're not gonna clean the streets up because half of them aren't gonna come here. And those are the folks that, the ones that need the most help. I mean, when you think about it, the reason why the old nursing home worked was because we were able to separate populations. The old nursing home was large enough and big enough where you could separate families, you had Southeastern and Hampshire Drug and Alcohol Services already here. So you could flex the building like we do with the jail, okay, based on our population, what you were dealing with. That had the capacity to clean up the streets, okay? And you had drug and alcohol abuse services here. Now with community partners taking over Southeastern, you're gonna have mental health services. You had all those things here, okay? And with the building, the existing two nursing homes, you had the ability to flex that population based on what we had going on, okay? And you would have been able to clean up the streets because all simply would have occurred. The police would have grabbed them and said, okay, what's going on with you? Okay, well, I have no place to stay. I'm here. I'm not, whatever their excuses are. They would come here. They would have been a centralized facility to be able to deal with whatever demons everyone's dealing with. To put the building simply behind the nursing, to put up the shelter behind there. Yeah, you're gonna help some people, you're gonna help some,
Interesting, you never.
but,
Yeah.
it's not gonna clean up it's not gonna clean up the streets.
We expect the sheriff to turn
Right.
blind
The other
eye
way.
to something like that. That can't happen.
Well, it's no different than when you think about it, when they're drug sick and they walk in an emergency room of a hospital. When a few years back, the hospitals asked the county to do security in the hospitals. And we were gonna do that. I negotiated a deal I did it myself, negotiated a deal with the CEOs of Frisbee and Wentworth Douglas. In the end, what was happening was, they says, well, it's easier for us to have our own security because we're concerned about people coming through the door who are drug sick. Okay, got that. But at the end of the day, no one asked the real question, which is, what's your success rate in turning those people around? What you're doing is you're treating them initially and then you kick them back. At least across the street. It'd be one thing if you had a 360 degree view of what was going on. And a lot of counties in this country run what's known as a CID program. So when they pick people up on with protective custody, as an example, and they're drug sick or they're drunk or whatever, they don't go to jail. They go to this, they would go to a program like I'm talking about, like Old Riverside. The cops would transfer them there first, okay, to get them medical help. So you're not dealing with that in the quote unquote jail, so to speak. And a lot of counties have done that across the country and been very successful at it. And,
But it's expensive.
but it's expensive, right? Well, someone has to pay for that.
I know Jamie Dunn, that's what he does in Arizona.
Yeah, when Jamie worked for us, he went out there.
Yeah.
But that's how they do it, okay? And it's successful across the country, but somebody has to pay for that. Okay, now. Medicaid, some of those people under Obamacare are eligible for, health insurance. But a lot of them don't have it because they've never applied for it. Okay, so that's the other component. When you bring them in, you try to give them the appropriate health care, and you get them on Medicaid. And I mean, that's what Goodwin Healthcare does, when you think about it.
That's what we do at the
That's what we do at the jail, right? So it had, I guess what people don't understand is that we were trying to solve multiple problems all at once with building a nursing home. It solved a lot of societal ills, trying to take on too many. I mean, there were solutions to what we had. Homelessness, elderly being kicked out of apartments. We'd had the ability within that old building to be able to help that situation. The 5 to 8 year waiting list, depending on your circumstances with the housing authorities. But we didn't get it. So now we gotta deal with what we got. And the question is, are you gonna spend money to clean up the streets, or aren't you? It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science, but you're gonna need a facility to do it. And the question is, where are you gonna put it? And that's been the biggest argument from day one. And who's gonna pay? How do you pay for it? Who pays for it? Does the county contribute? Does the property tax contribute to it through the county? Do each individual communities continue to through their welfare departments pay for it? Those are all the big outstanding questions that have been going on now for many, many years. And the problem just gets worse. And it's gonna get worse before it gets better. So we need things like this bill to allow for mother-in-law and father-in-law, apartments. We need to get rid of the draconian zoning that we have in the state, in our communities, which drive up the cost of housing.
Big time.
Artificially driving it up because we have this, and I hate to say it, but it's just the plain facts. We have this old 1940s model that everyone is gonna live in a house with a white picket fence and have 2 kids and a car in the garage, and a chicken in every pot. Americans, this country's changing. Okay, we don't have that kind of dynamic anymore. We have young people who don't want to live in the White House with a picket fence. They don't want to do that. If you don't believe it, come on to downtown Dover. We got 1,000 units being built in downtown Dover right now. Well, younger generation now want to live in an apartment. Okay, they don't have to mow the grass. They saw what their parents went through, and they're trying to plan when they're getting the next latte or their next vacation. Okay, I know I have a number of nephews and nieces. That's how they think. That's how that generation moves out.
I have stepson that way.
That's what they're looking at. So when we have draconian types of zoning in all our communities that say you're gonna own 2.5 acres of land before you can have a home.
Impact fee.
And impact fees, and $15,000 to get a building permit for a house. All those things add to unaffordability. And when that happens, you take at least 20% of the population and you put them in an unstable housing environment as a result of it.
And you create homeless.
And you create more homes. And that's just the facts.
All right, we
So
said,
anyway, we're set. I'm not talking about it.
Mr. Chair, just one
Yeah, sure.
quick, I have the CALIA accreditation
Yeah.
assessor visiting the 24th through the 26th. might be in touch with some of you to help.
Yeah.
Help us with that.
I've done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Good.
Yeah, George and I have done that in the
Yeah.
past.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's coming up.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
thanks.
Don't worry, we'll lie for you. No,
Yeah.
that's a joke, Sheriff. Sheriff, that was just a joke. No, we've done it before.
Alrighty. So we're all set with all the new business, we're all set with that, okay, questions, comments from the public? Related to the agenda, Vincent, Susan?
I'm gonna let you off this week real easy,
Okay, good,
and that's just that.
okay, good. I appreciate that. All right, so let's have a motion to move into non-public session. Personnel and contract negotiation, to move second. All right, roll call, Commissioner Petrie.
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett, myself, yes, votes unanimous, okay, the commission retires non-public session.